Hi, I'm CG or Caroline Gerardo Barbeau with CMG Financial. I've been a mortgage banker almost 30 years. I have an office right now in Irvine and in Huntington Beach. I'm going to talk today about how to close your loan in 20 days. Before you start, I supply the borrower with a scanner. I essentially loan them a scanner if they don't have one, or if they have a home scanner and a home computer. Those two tools are necessary to be able to send PDF documents back and forth. Second, we need to communicate every day. This process is kind of like a marriage, where we're going to actually work together to achieve a goal by the end of day 19. In the beginning, first day, what we will do is talk about all of your income and assets, past history, your credit, your children, what are your goals, and we'll set out a plan for what kind of loan package will suit you. And we'll coordinate this with your agent as well. After I get all your documents, you'll send to me your W-2 forms for the past 2 years, your current paycheck stubs for the past 30 days, bank statements, all of the pages, and identification, 2 forms of identification, either a driver's license, passport, or a social security card. Most people don't have the social security card, so it's usually the driver's license and passport. And the reason why I send you the scanner if you don't have a scanner is because all the documents have to be clear and very legible. So just taking a photo with your phone and sending that to me by text is not sufficient enough, because oftentimes the image is too curled or blurs some of the numbers, and all the account numbers and dollar amount numbers need to be readable for the pickiest bean counter to be able to read them. So on day 1, I'll have all those papers from you. I'll review it with my team, and an underwriter will actually look at your documentation on the very first day. We'll already have a plan as to what loan program you're going to choose, and we probably won't lock your rate on the very first day. We will be sending out a loan estimate by email, and you have to open the email every single day. And I'll set a time for you. Usually it's somewhere between 10 and 12 o'clock that I'm going to want you to open your email and correspond with me. And if you have any questions, you can call me back. But typically every day we send an email with the updates of what we need and where we're going. So in the very first email you'll get is a loan estimate. And it's required that you open the loan estimate as fast as possible and e-sign it. And the reason for that is it sets a time clock for when we can order the appraisal. So as soon as you've e-signed the loan estimate, we can order the appraisal pretty much within 24 hours. I can't collect any funds from you up front or order an appraisal until after you've actually signed that document. So there is an urgency in opening all of your emails and signing them. Oftentimes it's a little bit cumbersome to figure out how to actually open the email, and borrowers will call me and say, am I supposed to put my date of birth, or just the year of birth, or just the year, like 1997 as the whole thing? And we talk about that and we kind of laugh about it, so they can talk through how to open an e-sign, because that's cumbersome just to learn the process in the very first day. On the second day, we will actually talk about ordering the appraisal, and I order the appraisal through Property Rate, a management system. I'm not allowed to speak to the appraiser or correspond or even ever talk to the appraiser in any form. The listing agent or your buyer's agent can actually speak with an appraiser. And on day 2, I'll know, I get an email back from Property Rate telling me who it's been assigned to, so I can tell the listing agent and the buyer's agent, and you if you like, the name of the appraiser and the phone number for the appraiser who will contact the listing agent. I can't get involved in the process, that's a federal law, but they can. So the listing agent, I will send an email to the listing agent on that day saying, here's the name of the appraiser and the phone number, and they're going to be calling you, and it's important that you call them back quickly and set up an appointment. It's also important that a carbon monoxide detector is inside the house, because that's California state law, and that the water heater is strapped to California state law. And any other health and safety code violations have already been fixed before the appraiser comes, to avoid actually having any kind of delays of doing a reinspection, which also is an additional cost to the borrower. I also suggest to the listing agent that they have a typed up list of 4 comparable sales that have closed within the last 3 months that are in similar square footage and similar area to their listing. They usually have already done this research but haven't had it typed up. And it's really important that they have a typed list that they can hand to the appraiser when they meet them, kind of to do their work, but also to get them to see whatever the listing agent and the seller saw in terms of the value of their home. On day 3, we should be already setting the appointment, and the appraiser will probably actually go and physically go out and take the photos of the house. You also may have your own inspector going out on day 3 or 4 to inspect for all health and safety code violations. Look at the roof, look at the water heater, look at the air conditioning unit, make sure everything's in good working order so that you could perhaps get back and communicate with the seller if there's anything that seems to be amiss. By day 4, I should actually have the appraisal back at the end of the day. It is initially emailed to the borrower, and there's about an hour delay from when the borrower opens it and when I get to see it. Because I'm a lender, I'm not, as I said before, supposed to communicate with the appraisal or the appraiser or the process of it. The borrower and the agents have the right to own the appraisal and communicate about it. I can only see it after it's completed. So as soon as it's completed and the borrower and perhaps your buyer's agent looks at the appraiser and sees that it's the value that you thought and that the condition is as you thought and the information is correct, we'll move ahead with an intent to proceed at that point, and that can be done verbally. Usually by day 3 or 4, if it's not a Friday, because Friday I discourage borrowers from locking, we will probably lock the loan and communicate with escrow and tie down all the exact numbers. So at this point we will have already talked to your insurance agent and have a fire insurance quote, and I will order the declarations page from the fire insurance agent and perhaps suggest to you we might have a couple phone calls back and forth discussing the deductible and the amount of coverage and whether that's sufficient for what we believe the appraisal value is, and also whether it's sufficient really for your needs and long-term goals, because we've already talked about what your financial goals are. So once we have the insurance policy back on day 4, I can turn that into underwriting for final approval, and our final approval is back within 24 hours. So by end of day 5, perhaps the morning of day 6, we'll have an actual conditional approval for you as the borrower to know that you're firm and ready to go. There may be some little things that they ask for. There may be some issues on the appraisal, there may be some issues about some of the documentation, and I will call you and my team will call you and we'll communicate what those items are that we need to actually go to the next step, which is ordering from escrow a final estimate where the seller gets their estimate and the buyer gets their estimate, and everybody knows exactly what to the dollar amount, really to a very minuscule exact number as to what you'll need to close and what the seller will receive at closing. And this is really good to have at really pretty fast and in the beginning of the process. And the reason why it's good to have everybody knowing what dollar amount is that the insecurity of not knowing what you're going to net or what you're going to pay does create stress. So if we circumvent that stress by having the numbers exact very early in the process, you'll be much more relaxed and sleep more easy that this is the house that you really want to buy and you've dreamed to move into. At that point, once we have that commitment letter for you, and now 3 days have passed since we've locked, we would be in a position to actually I'll order from our team a closing disclosure. So our funding department, who is also in office, will communicate with the escrow officer to get all the numbers exact to the dollar, sometimes to the 50 cents, so that we know exactly that we're going to what we call balance, so that escrow doesn't have any changes. So at this point, no changes can occur in terms of adjusting dollar amounts of the price of the house or dollar amounts of credits for work to be done. This is at this point, which is day 8, we'll have a really exact dollar amount as what we're going to do. Now, sometimes things don't work that way. Sometimes the appraisal comes in low and there's some negotiation that has to occur to reduce the price, and that we may be at day 8 not able to have that solid dollar amount in writing where the seller has agreed in a written addendum and the buyer has also signed to change some of the numbers. As soon as we've got that all solid, we order the closing disclosure, which is again emailed out to you. So you're getting emails pretty much every day during the process. Monday through Friday during our process, you will receive an email almost daily, and some of them are actually accompanied by a video explaining the process. So when you receive the closing disclosure, again, you have to e-sign that, and you will review it with me perhaps on the phone to figure out what all the lines and all the ins and outs of every little penny is, and you'll have a clear knowledge of exactly what it is that you need to get for a wire in order to wire money from your bank account into the title company's account. And at this point, we're now really close to getting all the numbers together. And it is important that you be very cautious when you're setting up your wire. There are some, let's call them bad guys out there, who are sending emails to borrowers who have had their credit pulled, and there's access tools to people who have had their credit pulled for a mortgage application that they can get your email address and wire to you a different bank account than actually the title company's bank account, and it's called wire fraud. So I encourage you to call back to the escrow officer or the title officer and confirm that the bank account, not just the name of the bank, say it's Union Bank, and the bank account number match their account so that no fraud can occur, that you don't happen to accidentally, erroneously wire the money to the bad guy's account. That is one kind of important factor in this, in that in the digital age there are a few steps we have to be extra careful, and in sending money, that's one of the steps. So once you've wired your money, perhaps that's on day 11, we need to see that the wire has cleared your account. And so it won't be until day 12, if that's a weekday, a Monday through Friday, that you can show to us or demonstrate that by an online printout, which is a PDF, but also has the URL or the HTTPS of the bank, Wells Fargo, Chase, BankAmerica.com at the bottom with the date, showing us that that amount of money matching what the wire was has cleared your account. And we, as lenders, do police any kind of funds that are moved from one account to another, and it's very regulated by the Patriot Act. Anything over $500, we have to explain and show where it came from and where it went to. So now your money's already at the title company, ready to go. You've done your final walkthrough, and we will get docs out on day 12 or 13 if it's weekday, and the notary will actually go to you, either to your office or to your home, in order to sign you up for all the documents. And it's 100 pages of signatures, and it takes about an hour. And at that point, the notary will take the documents or overnight them back to wherever the escrow company is so that we can go for final settlement. And on day 17, we're probably ready to actually fund our loan and record if it's early enough in the day, or day 18. So really, my 20-day plan could actually close. I can close them in 17, but you might want to wait until day 20, depending on what your contract and your needs in terms of moving and in terms of actually being able to take off work to go and set up the wire and have the notary meet with you. So to further explain, a transaction does take a lot of communication. So I will be communicating with both the buyer agent and the seller agent, and with the escrow officer and your fire insurance company, and perhaps the inspector, but not the appraiser, in order to get your transaction completed. My name is CG, and that's my initials, and everyone calls me by my initials excepting my mom. And I'm with CMG Financial, and thanks so much for your time.